It's no secret that being a dad is messy. But don't worry, Dr. Rocco is here to help you raise the next generation of happy and successful children. Through conversations with other dads going through similar struggles, you'll hear what they went through and how they came out the other side better than ever before. If you're ready to better yourself through personal development so you can be a better dad, then listen on. Welcome to It's Dad Time. Here's your host, Dr. Rocco.
So let's jump into it. We know each other briefly from our daughter's school. You have a lot more experience there, which I do want to touch on because I think it's super valuable where our children go to school. I think it's absolutely amazing.
Very much so.
Next to homeschooling, I think it's probably the best option out there, especially right now.
Yeah.
But before we do that, let's give a little background of you, and we'll go from there.
All right. My name is Xavier Hawk, like the bird, H-A-W-K. And what I do for work is I finance and commercialize advanced technology out of the DoD space for government use and for private sector. So technologies that people have never seen or heard about, we take them to market.
Yeah.
Stuff that used to be classified, now is not. It's a really cool life.
Yeah, it was whenever we were talking for like 5 minutes, I was like, oh my God, it's so interesting. I just want to talk to you for hours. And I'm over here, I don't even know how to make this work. and you're selling it the most advanced technology on the planet. It's pretty awesome.
It is a pretty interesting life, that's for sure.
Yeah. So how does that transition into, especially right now, because you mentioned it when you got in, you're grateful for being able to spend so much time with your children right now. So how does it transition? Because to me, that sounds like, oh my God, he works 80 hours a week.
I do, but it's a lot of it is phone calls or travel, right?
Okay.
Like I'll go to a place for a couple weeks, maybe a month. But it's really my hours and as busy as I want to be.
Okay.
Right? So there are times where I can be working heavy hours, but a lot of the time I end up being on my phone when I'm taking my kids to and from school or work or whatever.
Sure.
But most of the time it's like this summer, for instance, right? We are making daddy camp, right? Where, this is our time for tennis. This is our time for playing Dungeons and Dragons together. This is our time for doing art or self-directed learning or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's really about, for me, having kids has always been about having camp, right? Like I'm shepherding this new generation into being true spiritual warriors, people who are capable of facing the challenges of an ever-changing, crazy world, right? And giving them the strength of character to be able to make the decisions they need to stand up for their beliefs, no matter how many people are saying otherwise.
Yes.
Right? And it's only by having that ability to spend time with them and help them go over, hey, this is what your teacher said about this, but this is what we as a family think about that. You know what I mean?
And having those beliefs, you got to lead by example there.
100%. The priest of the home. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to lead that. So give me some examples of that. Like what that looked like, what daddy camp looks like. Tell me what daddy camp, because this is the new idea to me. So
so we printed out a schedule. We said, let's do a brainstorming session. What are the things that you would like to do this summer? Well, we want to work on puzzles. Okay, cool. That goes on the list. We want to do tennis. Okay, that goes on the list. We want to get guitar lessons. Goes on the list. And so we just get a brainstorm list of all the things everybody wants to do.
Okay.
And then we create a schedule and we say, this is what time I wake up and do my calisthenics and work out. And I need for you all to have some calisthenics and work out. So you're either going to get up at 5:30 when I do, which is not flying,
right.
Or we do that after I come home from the gym and I just extend my calisthenics period, right? And then from there it's like physical activity in the beginning of the day. And then, you want to use an iPod to listen to a book or something productive. There's no tech time, right? And if it is, it's scheduled. Like here's a 30-minute window or an hour-long window where you can play Genshin Impact or whatever the game is, right?
I'm big on that in my house. No TV.
Yeah, exactly. And as it stands, during the course of the school year, it's like tech is only allowed on the weekends.
That's the same rule in the house.
Yeah. But if you want to listen to a book while you're doing dishes or drawing, we can do that.
Sure.
And better, no tech in any of the rooms. So if you're doing tech, you're doing it in the commons area, right? Because that stuff, I have watched them have unfettered access and how it literally changes their behavior, their composition, the way they think. Yeah.
I almost threw my TV away one time because I saw how much it changed her. Like I sat after I got her to bed that night that I saw the change, insane.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, TV did this.
Yep.
What is happening? And I literally was looking at my TV and I'm like, do I really need this fucking thing?
I haven't had a television since I was 17 years old. So back in the 90s, I realized how evil it was, and I was just like, that's it.
Yeah.
I got rid of it, never had one since. What we do is we have a projector, because I think the digital screens,
the blue light
flicker,
and all that.
yeah. And then, so we got a projector, and then we plugged in a Fire Stick to that. And so, if you want to watch a movie or a specific show, then we can all do so together in the projector room.
Yeah, and I think those things. I love watching movies with my daughter.
Same.
Like that time is invaluable and amazing. I'm
How
not
old is she?
bashing it. She's 6.
Okay. Oh, that's the best.
The best, man. Like this Christmas, I introduced her to Elf, and she wanted to watch it all the time that we got to watch TV. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the best.
So I've got a 14, 12, and 9.
Okay.
Right? And like, I am so. I don't want to say cling to the 9-year-old right now, but like it's that end of that period of daddy's the best and everything daddy wants to do, I want to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm down for whatever adventure. That's that age. And it kind of ends 10, 11, 12, right? Yeah. And now then, the elders or the older ones, they're all like, I just want to listen to weird music and draw or whatever it is. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember 6, 8, like they would be down for Star Wars, Mandalorian, whatever, right? And now it's like, no, Dad, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah,
it's cringe.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because you're definitely at a point now where the older ones are kind of at that point. I don't listen to a ton of outside stuff.
Yeah,
but I'll put on some podcasts and things because once a month they go on a very long drive, whatever, for work, and years ago, I remember listening to, I don't remember, I was listening to Jocko Wilkins, I think is his last name. I know of him, I just don't want to mispronounce his last name, right? And he's awesome. I just don't consume his content on a regular basis, but somehow I was listening to something that he was on. And he was, Jocko, because I know you're clearly listening to my podcast. If I screw up this story, you can come on and correct me. But someone had asked him, like, how do you do everything you do with 2 kids or 3 kids or whatever it is? And he was like, I need to answer that tomorrow. Like, he had to go home and think about it, right? So he went home and he thought about it. And what he told the guy was, like, his youngest maybe was like 11 or 12. And he was like, they're at an age where they don't need me like they needed me in the beginning.
That's right.
And now I'm able to go create another company. Go do this. Go do these things. Like you're able to go leave and work because they're not as dependent on dad. And I've already established that foundation that dad's here and all that stuff.
So critical. And it's that early period where you set the ground rules, you set the tone, you set the expectations, and this is how we behave as extraordinary human beings who've got this gift, all of those pieces, and so that they carry that through. And when they're facing challenges from the outside world that want them to change or conform or turn into, 2-legged Muppet cows, as I like to call them, it's like they have this strength of character and the knowledge that they are incredible, that they don't need to succumb to that. And that even if the world is against them, that they can stand true in their strength and character and in their faith.
Yep. The guy that I had on, he was talking about, he did some research. It was fascinating. I didn't know about it, but up to the age of, I think he said 7, I might butcher, but you'll get the point. Up until the age of like 7 or 3 or 5, whatever it is, 70% of children test in the genius category.
That's right.
Okay. And by the time they're 18, they've heard the word no 180,000 times, I think he said,
right.
And only 20% of them test in the genius category. Yeah. We literally beat it out of our children.
Not only do we as parents tend to, or most parents, but also the school system, right?
Well, and perfect segue into our school system. Let's talk about it.
So our children go to the Waldorf School of Palm Beaches, and that is based on Rudolf Steiner's anthroposophy, Waldorf strategy, and also or the Waldorf pedagogy and biodynamic farming. I mean, this guy was a genius in the 20s and 30s, lectured on all sorts of topics. He was a clairvoyant, all of this, and he based a schooling system around not only the individual soul of the child and their growth, but also the cultural container that they're in,
Yeah.
where there's, business where the parents go work, and then the school and the social environment, so that the businesses that they're involved in pay for the schooling. Like, it was a really dynamic, and he caught a lot of flack for it. The Nazis burned down his school and tried to kill him. They were successful at killing him.
Yeah.
Wonder
why.
Because it's literally the philosophy of freedom.
Yeah.
And so when we were looking at a school system, or the fact that we had to address the fact that our children are going to go to school, it was like homeschooling or Waldorf. That's literally the only two options
100%.
because everything else is so destructive. And so the thing about Waldorf is that there's no grades. The teacher stays with them from first grade to eighth grade.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Because in my own experience, when I was in high school, I had a teacher who I'm still friends with now that helped me through a lot of shit in my life. Mm-hmm. Imagine having the same teacher all the way through know you.
They become like family.
Yes.
And then the class that you're with becomes like family. And it's so much stronger to be able to create competent, capable social beings. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one of the number one drivers of, a metric for success is your ability to socialize, and not only socialize, but recover from social rejection quicker. Right?
Yeah.
That's the number one.
Yeah,
that's the number one metric for success in society, right? And culturally. And so in Waldorf, it's really about, okay, you have a conflict with the student. It's not like you're going to go to another class and not have to deal with them.
Yeah.
You have to figure out conflict resolution
all day long
strategy.
you're with him.
Boom.
There's no switching. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to cooperate with other creatures, other humans, and you have to learn how to navigate that. And the counter to that is that you kind of get insulated in a group, right?
Sure.
But that's where other things. I mean, that's the concern.
That's why you
with
put them in
homeschooling.
events and you do the other things.
Right.
I mean, one of my absolute best friends in the world, shout out to Dr. Bloodmoon, she was homeschooled, and she's one of the most well-adjusted people on the planet in social situations.
To that point, so our eldest, the middle school at our school is very small. So it was like 5 kids. We wanted more social interaction. So she went to another.
Which now it is, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it will become that with my daughter's class, which is amazing.
It's going to be huge, right? Even my middle daughter is going into a class that's going to be like 20 people. So
beautiful.
So our eldest, she went to another school, not a public school, a private school. We had to check all of them and make sure that they're not, too liberal, crazy,
Of course.
And so she got real nervous the first few months because she was adjusting to, like, all of a sudden there are all these different people. None of them were as competent socially as she was.
Yeah.
And so she was like way more advanced than them. And she's like, how do I fit in with these people?
Yeah.
Like, their conversations are stupid, they're stupid
Yeah.
and all this other stuff. And then, and there was another family that had gone to that same school prior to, and all three, their kids, our kids, and our other family friends' kids won all of the awards, right? and Waldorf students go on to become like senators, astronauts, like very advanced people in culture and society. And so I think it's not well known because it's like this alternative schooling, but it is the original form of schooling.
Yeah.
Like, here's a little soul. They need to figure out how to embody and become, a culturally competent human being. And instead of formulating them into this box of like, the system that they need to become cogs in, it's like, who are they naturally?
Yeah.
Okay, this is who you are naturally. This is the form and factor that you're going to take on. How do you fit that into society?
Yeah.
How do you become productive? So it's a completely flip reversal. Like, we honor the individual, we honor the freedom, we honor the spirit and the soul of that being, and how do we help, it's like
Blossom.
Yeah, blossom.
I love it because, well, one, it's funny because we get everything we ask for in life, especially when we start to attune to it. And I am still friends with people that I went to kindergarten with, because I went to kindergarten all the way through my senior year with the same people. Okay. And then the way my school worked is there was 5 elementary schools in my town in the middle of nowhere, right? Because we came from all over, because Western Pennsylvania, middle of nowhere, 5 elementary schools. They converged for 6th grade. So you started to meet new people in 6th grade, and then you went all the way through 12th. I have friends from kindergarten all the way through and 6th all the way through, because we were small and close, and we learned these social regulation things because of that. You weren't going to go anywhere else. There's 100 kids.
Right.
You're in it.
Right.
It is what it is. And I love that. But when we were talking about what are we going to do with Sloan and how's all this going to work, I felt that the public system at the time, quote unquote, failed me. I realized that I take massive responsibility for a lot of those things, but I'm like, okay, I don't want my daughter in that. And then I don't know if I want her in a private school. And my ex-wife at the time, she went to a private school and she had the same experience, which is why she dropped out of college. Her private school was so advanced that when she got to her first year in college, she's like, it's a fucking joke.
Right.
I'm not going to pay money for you to teach me what I know.
Right.
So she dropped out of college.
Yep.
Right. And now it's awesome. She's a doctor and everything's great. But that was the problem she had. I also then going through school, I refused to do homework because I'm like, motherfucker, I've been here since 7:45 in the morning. It's 3. I'm not going home to do more.
Right.
So then I'm thinking, and we're talking this out, and I'm like, okay, belief systems. If dad doesn't believe in it, I can't look at my daughter and be like, hey, you're going to do the fucking homework.
Right.
Like that doesn't work.
Right.
So then I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? And it was important to me. I kept asking myself, how can I create these friendships that I have for my daughter that are lifelong? Because that starts in school, right? And then we found this. We found Waldorf. And it was like, oh my God, it was everything we were looking for. It was amazing.
And you'll find that the parents and the social group they're all awakened to some degree. They know something is going on that is outside the bounds of normal pop culture communication, news, whatever, and they're taking some responsibility for their health, their own destinies to some degree. You know, they're
like
all
eating nerds. Sponsored by nerds. It's not really sponsored by nerds, but everybody tag nerds. Let's get sponsored by nerds.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
And so they're all awakened to some degree. And I remember I was out at an ecstatic dance, and 2 parents from the school were there with their kids. So they were dancing, no drugs, no drinking. It was like clean. It was at a yoga studio. And the kids were having a conflict. And I just happened to be around because I was walking around and I saw the kids were having a conflict. And so I stepped in and helped mediate, and even disciplined some of them. Not physically, but like talking sternly to them. That's not the way you deal with people, that kind of thing. And I don't know that you could do that in public currently unless you had a group of parents or people that are familiar with each other and also trust one another. And I think that's one of the beautiful things at the Waldorf school.
I think Waldorf's amazing.
And the parents thanked me. They were like, thank you for stepping in.
Of course, because you've built the trust since they were in fucking kindergarten together, right?
Exactly.
And I just had this conversation with my buddy. So they moved back home, and his wife is a teacher, and their children are in school or camp, whatever. And someone tried to, I think, discipline his kid, and he's like, hey, oh, fuck no.
Right.
But it wasn't a fuck no because they were trying to discipline. It was a fuck no because of who you are, what you were trying to do, and we're not like that.
Correct.
And he was like, and we both agreed, like vice versa, if our children were together and he needed to discipline my daughter or I needed to discipline
that's
theirs.
Cool. I know your values. I know what you're about.
You're in. It's going to be good. You're not going to damage them. You're not going to talk. You're not going to shame. Like all of these things,
Exactly.
And you build that trust inherently through the Waldorf system because they believe the same things we do. I mean, I think, what's the dance class they go to? Eurythmy.
And it's not dance.
No.
It's like American Sign Language, but with your full body.
And oh my God. So in Waldorf, you go as the parent to these things. Events, so you know exactly what it is. And you're doing the eurythmy class. So that you understand why. And she's explaining like, when we come back out, I teach them that like we're reconnecting, and it's like reconnecting with source. Like I'm like, oh my God, the implications of this are amazing. Like you're connecting metaphysics and quantum physics and spirituality all in one, and it's like. And then we come back into the center, and then we come back out to gather our energy. And
it's not even frou-frou. Like it is grounded. It is because now we're going to do math. And it's like it's really taking in the holistic perspective of a human being.
Oh my God!
And Steiner has there's the 5 senses that we all have that we are taught that, but then there's like 12 according to Steiner and his clairvoyance. And the top one, the 12th one, is like not omniscience, but when you love so deeply to all of those that you are around, when you love something, you understand it. And you know what I mean? It's like when you love your wife, you understand her deeper. And when you understand her deeper, you love her more. That's the process with everything. So if you're taught to love all that you see and perceive and that you are, and you're taught with this whole being, then you will genuinely be more intelligent because you're more in tune with what people are feeling, thinking. Of course. Right?
Just by default.
Right.
Again, by working on yourself, you up-level everything.
Exactly. And so this school is developed to be able to do that. Right. And now there will be students that will advance further because there's only so much consciousness that people can have before they, teleport. Yeah. But, we're still dealing with people, society who are wounded, who are kept back. We grew up in public school system 100%. With a lot of BS, right? Yep. So we're still dealing with our trauma, our generational, all of these wounds that we have, and we're trying to create an environment where the kids don't have them so they can go even further. Yep. Right?
Which is what we want. I mean, you want your children to stand on the shoulders of giants.
Correct.
I mean, that's
and be capable. And so, a lot of the parents that are coming into this Waldorf school, ours particularly, came in because during the lockdowns, we didn't do any lockdowns.
Exactly.
We didn't do any masking. We didn't, it was voluntary. Like you can do, because that's the spirit of freedom, right? And
which is what Florida embodied, which is why everybody moved here and loved it.
Correct.
Like I would go to the grocery store and we didn't do any of those things. I did no masks on any of us, right? And I don't judge anybody who did. You live in a free country. You want to put 12 of them on. Go ahead. I don't care. It's fine.
I have a very strong judgment on this. You were not forced to take an experimental injection full of nanobots. You were forced to stand up for yourself, and you didn't.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So there's a really clear distinction there. And so I when I say I don't have judgment on people, sure, but now I understand where people live in their consciousness and in relation to what they're dealing with and what they call reality.
Sure,
right?
Of course. It gave you a good pinpoint of perception of where people are at and people surrounding you and who you maybe want to communicate with and move forward with.
We lost a lot of teachers from our school because they were like, I'm an old person and they better wear masks and they better adhere to this way of thinking or else. And there were Waldorf schools around the country who capitulated and were terrified and all of this stuff. And it was a matter of who is really adhering to the principles of what Steiner set out. Because even 100 years ago, he predicted what we're going through now. He said 100 years from now, they're going to create a vaccine. I mean, you can look this up. Wow. They're going to create a vaccination. They're going to call it a vaccination that will cut off your connection with God.
Wow.
To become a more materialistic society.
Wow.
Right? And we will have a period 100 years from now where we have an opportunity to really take humanity to the next level, or it will become more technological and more, so which way do you think it's gone?
Yeah.
We're one of the few schools in the country, in the world, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That stood our ground and said, we're looking at the facts. And the facts are, this is how many people get affected by this virus. Everybody. Right. This is how many people actually die.
Right.
I don't want to get us canceled here, so I'm going to...
No, we'll move on past it because we don't want to get canceled before I even start. But I agree with everything you're saying, and it matters, right? And I taught my daughter, and again... I'll tell the story because I don't give a shit. So I didn't handle it the best at the time, but I handled it. We were at the grocery store. Mm-hmm. And again, I didn't wear masks, right? Health is your responsibility. And for me to wear a mask would mean is the equivalent to protect you is the equivalent to me telling you, I don't want to go to work, so please pay my rent.
Right.
Okay. So, right. So we were at the grocery store and we were like in the line of Publix. Social distancing, whatever, fine. But I'm looking at Sloan and I hear somebody from the other way go, hey, why don't you have a mask on? And I just keep talking to Sloan. I'm like, surely this fucking guy's not talking to me.
Right.
Right? I hear it again. And I turn around and there's a guy that's about 200 pounds overweight. And he starts telling me, nobody in here can say anything. You need to have a mask on. I'm a nurse. I go, oh, motherfucker.
Right.
I'm a doctor?
Right.
And so I start giving it to him, right? And I've had family members and very good friends who served in the military. And I finished and I was like, my family and friends didn't go serve this country and die so that you can fill your cart with Coca-Cola and McDonald's, gain 200 fucking pounds, and then tell me to take care of you, right?
Yeah.
And and I said it a little bit more aggressively. And
as one would.
Yeah, I hit my point. I turned and looked at Sloan. And the first thing I said to her is, I go, we will not be bullied for our belief systems.
There you go.
And in that moment, she learned our values and beliefs are sacred to us.
Yeah.
And we will not bend on them.
Yeah.
because someone else tells us to. You know, and I think that's massively important. So even in the midst of all this shit, you get to grow. And then the school now, you can't just get in.
No.
Because they held their values and boundaries.
And everybody wants to get in.
And everybody wants in.
We have the highest enrollment that we have ever had, and it's because of this. And you know, not everybody's going to get in, right? And the amount of teachers in Waldorf countrywide is nothing compared to teachers public school, right?
Of course not.
And they're in very high
they
demand.
are sacred.
Yeah.
Like they are
And they
some of
treat
the
their
most
work-
special people on the planet.
And they take their work as sacred, as a sacred duty, not just like this is my job.
No,
it's like they're all spiritually involved, soulfully involved, and it's a gift. If you're of that mind and of spirit, it's like there's angels surrounding that school. You know
I couldn't imagine Sloane's teacher last year in kindergarten. I'm like, how is she so connected? I never experienced a teacher who cared that much.
Right.
So it was almost unfathomable to me. And I'm like, wait, they're all like this?
Yeah.
And the staff's like this?
Yeah.
What is happening?
Yeah. It's a community.
It is.
It really is. And it's, like I said before, it's what teaching and what school was meant to be. And so, I'm very honored that we get to be a part of it and have been such a foundational part of the school's growing and all of this. We're literally considering our next move based upon where there's a Waldorf school that will have high school.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm hoping by the time Sloane gets there that's created.
And through the work I'm doing personally, I'm looking to build that here.
Yeah.
Because I like it here, right? So I'm very much about, when we become parents, we are not just, there was a big decision I had to make whether I'm going to focus all my life around my children or I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing and bring them along for the ride. And that is the decision I made, right?
Nice.
Because I've seen other people change their whole life for this, and then teenage years comes around and they have nothing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, this is what I'm doing, and this is important, and this is why it's important, and you get to come along on the ride.
Sure.
And I will even bring you to meetings. I've had
Oh my God, I love that.
very expensive meetings,
Yeah.
right? And my daughter's sitting there either in person or on the phone and listening, and I'm like, okay, who is in charge of that meeting? And then she would say, who's got the power in that meeting? Who doesn't? Who's looking for, all of these little lessons in real life, high stakes poker, right? And that's some of the most valuable stuff, I think, because it gives them real hands-on life experience.
No, I think that's how you learn.
Yeah.
I mean, that real life hands-on anything you've ever done, you learned that way. I mean, I would have killed to be able to learn. I didn't, my dad, my parents weren't in a job where I could do that, and I didn't want to do their jobs. But oh my God,
I was a dumbass. I had the opportunity. I grew up in an entrepreneurial home, and I was helping run the family business. I'm part Lebanese. The Lebanese firstborn, they run the family business. They learn the family business. They don't leave the house until they're married. All of this traditional stuff.
Okay.
That's how I grew up. And so I was learning it, and I was like, I want to go do all these other things. This boring ass business. I don't want to. But I learned after going off and doing other things.
Right.
And then
the value you had there.
Oh yeah. And so even now, we are. We are a family. My sister, my mom, myself, my wife, her family. We are all looking out for each other and as a unit.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're trying to destroy.
Oh yeah.
That strength. If I have 5 people that all agree with me, then I can stand stronger in my values.
Of course.
Right. So that's. And so when we bring business into it, and we're not just, we want to build a family compound. We want growing vegetables. The people we want to bring in to help run that. All of those components. It's we against the world. This is our tribe.
Yep. So tell me some of the values that you've worked on instilling in the children. I mean, and it's just by living them, but let's fast forward. Your daughters are 18. They're leaving the house. They're going to do their thing. They're like, I don't want to do the compound anymore. I want to go create my own. Right. What are those things you hope to have instilled in them?
So a lot of traditional male-female roles, right? If you're gonna take on a mate, then he is going to either outshine or do better than what I'm doing, or he's going to come into the family business and take leadership from me.
Yeah, I love that.
They're not.
I love that you're willing to do that.
Yeah,
yeah,
and they're not allowed to date until that they are self-sufficient. Insofar as you have a job or a way of generating income, whether it's online or whatever it be, because you cannot make good decisions until you have faced reality. You cannot make good decisions about a potential mate unless you have learned what the stakes are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I've never looked at it that way before.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, they play guitar well. And it's like, yeah, I played guitar well, and like, but that was a crapshoot, and your mom just got real lucky.
Yeah,
because I was like, oh shit, I better get my shit together.
Yeah, yeah.
It got very real very quick. So those kinds of things, and then also, like, I hate to bring it back up again, but know their medical history, know
Sure.
what they've accepted, what they haven't accepted. There's too much information about what's in those experiments that it's just not good, right? So those are some of the base core values. And then ultimately, since they were children, it's like we are a God family. Mm-hmm. God exists. God is the ever-present force that allows all of this to exist.
Sure.
We are the dream of God. And then I even took it to science. I'm like, there's a sun in the sky, and it generates atoms that created the earth that our souls got to come and dance in. We are the dream of the Creator. So you always live with that understanding. Mm. And if you do that, all your actions will be to glorify the fact that you exist and that a creator dreamt you into existence. Wow. So we are a God family. All of our actions, our breaths, our heartbeats, our actions in the home, this is our sanctuary. This is to glorify God, right? And that if we're doing anything that doesn't or shames that or, all we are to do is create beauty.
Yeah.
Wherever we go.
Sure.
Coherence, beauty. So that was since they were children. And here's how you shine. I would explain, this is the gift God gave you. You are beautiful. And when you sing, it is like angels, right?
Yeah.
And like just reinforcing, like when you write, it is like God is writing a story through you. Sure. You are the instrument of God's love. And you're here to love in the way that God would love. So those core values are, it's like, you shall know them by their fruits. Anybody who meets our family and who comes into our home, they feel it. Mm. And that's something that I've taken a lot of time to cultivate.
Yep.
And I think that comes from personal development.
Well, of course, it doesn't happen overnight, which is, I think, important for our growth so that we can then teach our children what our representation of God is.
Yeah.
Right? Because the idea that God is this big man in the sky with a beard,
right,
doesn't make sense to me at my age,
right,
let alone a 6-year-old, right. So it's like you better start to figure that part of who you are out, and again, whatever your version of that is, spirit thing, so that you can give them something to have a foundation upon. Right. Again, it goes to the foundation. And when you don't have a foundation, everything crumbles. We know that.
Yeah.
And
that's why they're trying to get rid of people's religion and people's spirituality and people's faith. And that's why they lock down churches, but not strip clubs. Right. It's literally to get rid of that one thing that will get you to stand up and be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No, I am a dignified, eternal divine thing.
Yeah.
You can't do this.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was a very foundational to be able to instill and live with and walk with.
Sure. Yeah. And then be the example for it all the time. And when
That's
you
right.
come up against hard times and all those kinds of things. So how,
let's take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And what are 4 things that you are grateful for? And then we'll go around at the table. Like we have those kinds of conversations.
We do that for dinner. So before dinner, we do what are you grateful for?
So at dinner, we do 4 breaths. Inhale, hold it, exhale. And then on the last breath, you can go,
Yeah.
And then we are grateful for this. We are grateful for that. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. And then we eat. And I don't make everybody hold and wait till we do that to eat. Like everybody can eat. And then when everybody's in the mood, all right, let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's valuable. I teach Lynn all the time. We're always doing our gratitude stuff. And it came from her watching me do mine in the morning.
That's right. That's right.
She was like, whoa, I can be grateful for this. And I can be great. Like all of these things. And I'll even... Sometimes I'll push her because I think it's our job as the father, right? Is to push.
Yeah.
And she'll be...
Set the expectation.
And she'll be in a mood or she'll be doing something. And I'm like, well, we're not going inside until you tell me what you're grateful for because we're not staying in this state.
That's right. And I've got a loud voice and I will bark. I will, like, if it's it's a house full of females and me, right? And if they're going off and they're picking, I will be like real loud, hey, you know, and everybody's like, oh God, you know, and I'm like, okay, now we're going to talk normally. And like, what, like, you're going to look in each other's eyes and not say a thing. And you're just going to face each other until the mood changes.
Yeah.
Because it's really like you are the curator. So 2 things we do as like rituals in our house. When they turned 7 years old, they were allowed to get earrings.
Okay. Sloan got them at 6.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we said, now that you're getting earrings, because they built up this thing to get them, they wanted them by that time, right? Everybody else has them. When you get them, you are now responsible for the vibe in the house. Because at 7 years old, they could understand the vibe. We went through enough explanations of it. So now you are responsible for the vibe. And I am going to hold you accountable. You're going to do the dishes. You're going to do these things. And now you are part of the family tribe. Right? And then I would get a set of earrings for each of the daughters. Right?
Okay.
Like with them.
Sure.
I they were terrified. And so I was like, I'll get it first. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And then I screamed, like the lady did it, and I just screamed. I was like, I freaked her out. People in the mall were freaking out. My kids started crying. I was like, I was just joking. I didn't want to do it, you know. But that was dad jokes. And then the other thing.
But then you learn, don't do it with the next one.
Right. It became a family story. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the other thing was during birthdays, what we'll do is we'll go to nature, and we'll go collect things and make a mandala. And then interpret the mandala. Well, look at the way that these leaves are. This is how you are, you know. And then we'll sit and into the eyes of the other one say, I appreciate this about you, and just go around in a circle.
Love bombing them. I got a friend. She's a trauma specialist, I guess, and they do love bombs in the house. That's what they call them, right?
Yeah.
And it was so funny because I had my birthday two years ago last year. I can't remember which birthday it was, but she has her one son just graduated high school, and then the other one maybe is 2 years younger, right? They're so, like, everything you talk about and we talk about, they're so well-rounded, so just integrated and just connected to everything that matters, right?
Right.
And they came over to the house and we went out and like got ice cream or whatever. And they're like, all right, we're going to do a love bomb for Rocco. And I'm like, I don't like this. I don't know what you're about to do, but if you're going to show me love, it makes me very uncomfortable. So I don't know, right? Because
right.
I'm guessing we're raised like I was. That wasn't a thing, you know?
Nope.
And they went around the room for like 5 minutes, each telling me like everything they loved about me. And I'm just like in the kitchen pacing. And then like Heather's laughing. She's like, feel it. I'm like, I am, and I can't sit still. Yeah. You know? I'm like, this is more love in 20 minutes than I've gotten my whole life. You let the system integrate it, you know, and to teach them at a young age that this is normal. And that's what one of the things I loved about our school. And I don't know how they do it at the grades, but at the elementary campus, when they have their birthday and the mom and dad come and all the other kids are there and you have pictures. And my daughter goes and she shows everybody a picture of each year of her life.
That's
and
right.
Every kid in the half circle acknowledges the picture. Yep. And then Sloan sits down, and I may be not getting it completely right, but then each kid gets up and gives Sloan a flower. Right. And then Sloan gets up and does something else. And then the kids get up and then they all draw a picture for her.
Yep.
And it's this.
They make a book and.
This book. It's amazing. And then the teacher tells this beautiful story about, you know, coming down from, you know, heaven or spirit or whatever you want to call it. And you go to the sun and the moon and you get, you know, all your courage from the sun and your gentleness from the moon, like whatever. Right. And you come down and, you know, the angel tells you like, well, it's not perfect down there. And you're like, but I want to go, you know? And so then you ride the rainbow down and tell this whole story. And I was crying because at this age of 6, they're celebrating you and making it okay to be the center of attention.
Yep.
And then teaching you it's okay to make other people the center of attention because when it's the next kid's birthday.
That's right.
And what did we're told our whole lives? Be humble and don't take credit for fucking anything.
Right.
And so then when you want to create your own business or start a podcast, you know how much shit I had to overcome because I'm like, oh, well, be humble. I just should shut my fucking mouth.
Right.
I remember playing sports. Like, you never took any of the credit. Yep. If you took credit, someone would tell you that you were a bad person and you should have gave credit to the other 10 people on the football team.
Right.
Which is all I did.
Right.
But at a young age, they're realizing you can have both. It was amazing. I'm like, just that is going to create in the world is worth it. These things that it's okay to celebrate me. and feel love from 20 other people. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's almost as if that's what the world was supposed to be.
Weird concept,
Weird, right? Oh, man. Yep. Yeah, and the fact that we get to take part in that, even in this small way, in this one spot, right? It's so significant because the amount of effect that we have, who knows what podcast they're going to start or how many people they're going to affect, or just even this conversation, right? Like we have a duty to create more beauty wherever we go.
I love that.
And it's not instilled in others, and we see like, I don't know about you, but my Twitter feed is horrific.
I don't even get on it.
I didn't either until Elon bought it, and I looked at it, and then I was like, oh, I see why people like this. And I find myself writing a tweet and then being like, I would never say that to anybody in person. Yeah, and then I delete it. Yeah. And it's like I've caught myself like at least 12 times doing that, and I'm like, this is horrible.
I saw a quote. I put it up on my Instagram every now and then, and it's I think the guy who wrote Conan, the barbarian, had a quote that was like, the problem with modern day society is you can say anything you want and not get your skull split open.
That's right. That's so right.
Right?
Like bring back duels. Come on.
You know, it's people don't like it, but I say that bring back bullying. It was one of the greatest things that happened to me when I was a kid was that I got bullied.
Me too. I remember I was in 6th grade I was in 8th grade going into 9th grade. And I was a fat, ugly nerd, like nerd, right? Yeah. I played D&D when it wasn't cool to play D&D. I was smart, I had big, thick bottle glasses. And the kids in 6th grade would pick on me. Yeah. That's how nerdy I was. Okay. And I remember going into the summer, it was like the end of the school year, I would walk to school with my backpack on both shoulders because it was ergonomic and it just made sense. But, back then you only wore one, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
And so I would walk to school.
Or if you had it on both shoulders, you had it sagging on your low part of your butt.
I didn't. Right? I wore it like a soldier. I'd keep it up high as a protect the lumbar. Anyway, so I would walk and these kids would ride by on their bikes and kick me. Nerd, dork, and it bothered me so bad. And I knew I was like, if I don't face this now, I'm going to go into high school being a nerd. Yeah. So I had to. So I remember I put my backpack, I pretended like it was on my shoulders. I knew they were going to come by. I knew exactly where they would because I always left at the same time. So I was holding it, pretending that it was on my shoulders. Yeah. Waited for the last one of the 5 to ride by. Took my backpack off, swung it, knocked him off his bike. We started fighting, and I was exhilarated. And this guy pulled over. It was a red Porsche. He had one of those sweaters over, like the nerd, the New England Bulls stuff, and he's wearing shorts and loafers or something. Just looked like a total twat. And sorry. And he's like, that's not the way we solve our problems. And I was like, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
This is a boy.
Yeah. And bro, that summer I shot up. I got contact lenses. I went into high school, and all of a sudden the cheerleaders started picking me up from school. I was like, yes,
made it. But that taught you a lot about life. It taught you to stand up for yourself. And then as you get older, you realize that's not the answer to how to handle your problems, and that's fine. But at that age, it sometimes is. And it's funny because I have a similar story though. I wish I could. I knew he might not still be alive, unfortunately. But this kid in my school, I was small. I was tiny. And he was smaller than I was. There was no theory that I should be afraid of this kid beating me up. It doesn't make sense. If I could go back with a camera, he'd be like, what? He's like, you weren't big, but he really wasn't big.
Right. But at that time,
it was so significant. And he was going to beat me up at lunchtime. And so I called my mom to go home. Right. She picked me up. And she's like, you're not sick. What's going on?
Right.
And I told her. And she's like, well, you're going to go back to school tomorrow and figure it out. And I'm like, oh, right. Long story short, he ends up not beating me up.
Right.
And I had $85. And I was like, Mom, I want to go to Play It Again Sports. And went to Play It Again Sports. And there was an $85 bench press machine that had an incline and barbells and all that shit. And I was like, never again. I'm never going to get bitched like this again. Right. And I started I remember every night I would come home, I'd watch TV, or TV would be on. Every commercial, the whole commercial, I would be doing some type of exercise until I couldn't do anymore.
Yeah.
Every night. And I put on 40 pounds. And I was like, well, that solved that problem. Never got bullied again.
Right.
But it pushed me to become better, and I know people will have their things about it, but I think as boys, there's a level of that. And then, what that then turned into was My friends and I, we sat with the mentally challenged kids at lunch.
Me too.
And nobody bullied them.
Yep.
Because we sat there and hung out with them.
Yep. There was this one young man, and he was in high school, and everybody picked on him, except for me. And whenever he was with me, and I wasn't a formidable looking, I was an artistic young man, but I was always the guy that would be like, he was so sweet. But he was mentally, incapacitated. But so come in hacky sack, come and, be here, just be around, right? I think that we as men need to be beaten up, if that makes sense.
Or at least the threat of it, at least once.
We need to overcome danger. We need to face danger. We need to be challenged. And
I think it's a carnal nature of ours, and that's why I think men are driven to violent combat sports. It's why we were driven to UFC, play football. You're trying to kill each other out there. Quite literally. At least back then. I don't know what it's like now, but back then
I wake up in the morning and I do not want to go running. And I go running. Yep. I do not want to do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 jumping jacks, but I do them. Yep. And then I do not want to go lift all these weights, but I do them. And then afterwards, I just feel great.
Amazing.
And it's like the challenge, overcoming the challenge is what makes us feel good. And what the sword needs to be hit by the blacksmith's hammer to become finely sharpened. It needs to be in the fire. And I've faced kidnapping, I've faced arson, assassination attempts, like all kinds of really gnarly stuff, right? Yeah. I've lost hundreds of millions of dollars. My life went from up here to like way down here. And that kind of, and it was not easy. I was lamenting, I was angry at God, I was resentful, I was like depressed, I gained weight, it was just misery to be around me. And it was only through accepting, facing, and going against it and saying, I'm not going to let this define me, that I have then become even better, even stronger, even more capable. And it was really only as hard as you're willing to be hit is how high you're willing to fly, right? Yep. And so our job as parents is to be able to give that to our children where it's not life-threatening, where it's not, but it's a significant challenge for them to be like, I want to go home. No, you're going to face this, You are going to be okay. Yep. This is uncomfortable. You don't want to jump in the pool and swim. You don't know how to swim, but you're going to be in the pool, and I'm going to be here with you, and it's going to be okay. And it's a little bit dangerous, right? Because it's those things that build confidence in the children.
And then they know they can do it. I do this with her all the time. I'm like, listen, and I did it at a young age. If something happened and, like, say she fell off the monkey bars, we're going right back to the fucking monkey bars.
Yeah.
We're not creating that neurological pattern. We're not going to be afraid of them. You're going to conquer them, right? I say it in the house all the time. I'm like, well, we'll just do it again. Yeah, that's it. Because I tell myself that in life all the time. I try something, it didn't work, but I wanted to do it. I go, well, do it again. We're gonna try again. We're gonna self-correct 1 degree, and we're gonna fucking figure it out.
And it is a little different with girls and boys, right? Like my friend,
I'm learning that.
Yeah. Same, bro. Yeah. I have a friend of mine, my business partner. He's got boys, and he's like, I bring out the belt. And I'm like, holy shit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's like, nope, this is how it was done. And military family, but his kids are fucking geniuses.
Wow.
Like really, and they respect, like they show up in senators' jackets when they come out publicly. They are well behaved, very intelligent. You communicate with them. They know what they're talking about. Disciplined boys. Like, bam. I wish I had a dad that was able to do that for me.
Sure.
Right? Instead, I was raised by a mom who was like, I'll take you home. And made everything just easy, right? Which was detrimental. Good feeling in the long run, but then as girls, like I want them to learn how to kill a man, right?
Yep,
but I don't want them to be defining their life that way. I want them to know how to use a firearm, and I want them to know how to be debonair and wear dresses and be pure and beautiful and inspire the best out of the men. Like those.
So when I'm teaching Sloan how to shoot compound bows right now because I love it, right?
Yeah.
And the first time we went, I'm like, all right, baby girl, you got to get dressed to go. So she went and put her camo dress on and her shiny, shimmery ball gown shoes. And it grabbed her bow. And so she's shooting archery with her shimmery, like ball gown shoes and her camo dress. And it was awesome because at Bass Pro Shop down here, they do Ladies' Day on Fridays.
Okay.
So I took her there, right? Because you don't have to pay to use the range. And then there were other women shooting their compound bows.
Oh, nice.
And so it was beautiful because I didn't take this little girl into a man's world.
Right.
I took her into what she perceived as a woman's world. Right. And then as she gets older and starts to get good, she can come with me and, do all those things. But it's awesome to see that empowerment. Like, because as soon as she saw that, she's like, oh, now I want to fucking do it.
She's like, now I can do this.
And it's really cool. And
normalize, Amazonian prowess.
Yeah, I mean, I do, because we wrestle all the time. She's strong as fuck. And she's also a woman. I take her on daddy-daughter date nights. We do. I celebrate that she's a woman. Like, I've said things before, like, come on, man. And she stomps her foot and she goes, I'm a woman. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, yes.
Well, we have turned dude into a non-binary word. If there's going to be some non-binary BS going on, it's dude. Yeah.
Dude. I'll use dudette still, because I think that was a thing.
They try to get me to do that. I'm like, I call the sink dude sometimes,
That's so funny. And I broke that habit of calling. I really tried breaking that habit of calling her man, because after we got divorced, I was dating a girl and she fucking hated when I said things like, come on, man.
Oh yeah.
She's like, I'm a woman. And I'm like, whoa. Yeah. Like, I like that. Like, that was my favorite thing about her, is that she wasn't a man.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it was like, oh, this is great. Awesome. All right. We're up against it. So we're going to do another one of these for sure. We're going to talk more about being dads. I love this. Any last words you want to say? Any advice you want to give anybody?
I would say, if you are listening to this somewhere else around the nation, look into Waldorf. I think it is one of the most important ways that we can bring our children up in a sane and healthy way, respecting their holistic development, their spirit, right? It is literally the philosophy of freedom for young developing humans. And I think it's really great.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, brothers.
Thank you.
That's the end of this episode of It's Dad Time, but there's plenty more where that came from. Please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, and we'd love to hear from you, whether it's questions, success stories, or horror stories, so we can help you raise the next generation of happy and successful children. Follow us on Instagram and send us a message at itsdadtime_. We'll see you next time on It's Dad Time.